Okay. Good morning, everyone. Once again for joining us today on to commemorate Helen Keller Day for 141st Helen Keller Day, and we are here with esteemed panel of guests. We have Mr. Uttam Kumar, who is Deputy Director, and he will be there to welcome you all. And also, we have our Executive Director, Mr. Akhil Paul. He will be giving the keynote address on Helen Keller Day, and we have a very learned panel with us to talk to you with the concerns and challenges and how we have overcome during the COVID times. So our panelists are Mr. Ishan Chakrabarti, who is assistant professor in Jadavpur University in English Literature, and also we will be having Mr. Rajiv Raturi. He is a special monitor rapporteur for disability in National Human Rights Commission. We will be going to listen Ms. Nandita Saran, who is a principal of Deafblind and Multi-Handicap Unit in National Association for the Blind, Delhi. And we will be having Dr. Sudhir S. Rai from Pune. He is a COO in Grant Medical College and Ruby Health Foundation. So, without further delay, I will request Mr. Uttam Kumar to give a welcome address to all of you.
Thank you very much, Deepak. Uh, Dear participants, thank you very much for joining today to celebrate 141st birthday of Dr. Helen Keller. In deafblind sector, we all wait for this particular day because when there was nothing, there was no awareness about deafblindness. We have taken help of Dr. Helen Keller and her story to create larger awareness about deafblindness. Uh, we are very pleased to see that Dr. Helen Keller is living her life, meaningful life, still with us through our stories, through our thoughts, through our prayers. We are here to celebrate her because she has shown life. She has she has given meaning to lives of persons with deafblindness. She has helped us to create larger awareness about deafblindness, not only in India but entire world. She was from US, but she has left her footprint across the world, every in fact every corner of the world. So आज हम जब हम इकट्ठा हुए हैं उनकी लाइफ को सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए उन्होंने जो हमें दिया है वो हमें सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए उस मीनिंग को एक दूसरे आगे लेके जाने के लिए आई थिंक बहुत सारी चीजें जो उन्होंने बोली हैं, बहुत सारी उनके जो कोटेशंस हैं वो हम याद करते हैं, हम उसे रेफर करते हैं। और आई थिंक उन सब कोटेशंस में उन्होंने एक चीज बहुत ही कॉमनली बोली है, लाइफ इज अ चैलेंज, वी ऑल हैव टू डील विद इट। जरूरी नहीं है कि जो एक डिफिकल्टी है उसी को हम देखते रहें, जो आगे अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं उसको हम ढूंढें, उसके साथ हम आगे बढ़ें। सो participants, we will be talking about deafblindness. Deepak has given a very brief introduction about all the panelists that we have with us, and we will be looking forward to hear from them. Each one of them in the panelists have got their major portion of their life associated with deafblindness as a professional or as a person living with experience. तो हम सब उनको सुनेंगे, हम देखेंगे कि आगे हम किस से हम हमारे पास जो अपॉर्चुनिटीज है उसको हम आगे किस ढंग से लेकर के जाते हैं। जो थीम है इस बार का डेफब्लाइंडनेस हेलन केलर डे का, वो कोविड के अराउंड है। वी नो दैट कोविड हैज पुट लॉट्स ऑफ चैलेंजेस इन आवर लाइफ। जो हमारी टीचिंग लर्निंग मेथड जो रही है बच्चों के साथ काम करने की, जो डेफब्लाइंड लोगों के साथ काम करने की, वो एक टैक्टाइल मोड का रहा है। हमेशा हम आमने सामने बैठ करके टच को यूज करते हुए, एक्सप्लोर करते हुए हमने कॉन्सेप्ट डेवलप किए। और ये जो चैलेंज कोविड के रूप में जो आया है, has exactly asked not to do that. वो एज ए प्रोफेशनल और एज ए पेरेंट, एज ए पर्सन विद डेफ ब्लाइंडनेस, वी ऑल नो दैट हाउ चैलेंजिंग इट इज. एक तो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट कॉन्सेप्ट डेवलप करना अपने आप में एक चुनौती है. उसके बाद अगर हम उसको एब्स्ट्रैक्ट चीजों को लेकर के एब्स्ट्रैक्ट वे में ही अगर हम एक्टिविटीज को, ऑब्जेक्ट्स को, लर्निंग कॉन्सेप्ट्स को अगर हम एक्सप्लेन करेंगे, you can understand how difficult it can be. So, friends, let's during the course of our discussion, let's talk about it. Let's discuss about it. I'm sure after the panel discussion, we will have opportunity to ask questions, share our thoughts, share our practices, and through which we will be coming up with some kind of new learning, new way of looking at it. So, with these words, I thank you for joining today, and let's celebrate the life of Dr. Helen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Uttam sir, for welcoming our guest and all the participants. Now I request Mr. Akhil Paul, who is the Executive Director of Sense International India, and he is the one who started this organization and this journey for people with deaf blindness in India way back in 1997. So we welcome you, sir, for the keynote address.
Thank you very much, Deepak, and happy Helen Keller Day to everyone, all of you who have joined in, who are touched by Helen Keller in one way or the other. So I wish you a very happy Helen Keller Day. ये बात सही नहीं है कि मैंने डेफ ब्लाइंडनेस के काम की शुरुआत की. हमारे सबके लिए एक बहुत अच्छी महिला जो अब हमारे बीच में नहीं है, बेरोज वाचा, she was the one who initiated work for deafblind specifically. So we also pay our tribute to her today because she has made many Helen Kellers through her work in Helen Keller Institute for Deaf and Deafblind. Today, when we sit in this webinar, I think the biggest message Helen Keller gave to all of us was to never give up. कि हम कभी अपनी जो शक्ति है उसको पूरी तरह से यूज करने के पहले हथियार ना डाल दें, हम अपने हिम्मत ना छोड़ें. And she has proved it time and again that only through her commitment and hard work and belief, उनका खुद का आत्मविश्वास और उनकी खुद आगे बढ़ने की जो ताकत, इच्छा शक्ति, इन चीजों के सहारे उन्होंने दुनिया में जो मुकाम हासिल किया, उसका परिणाम है कि आज हम उनका नाम लेकर, पूरा विश्व उनका नाम लेकर 27 जून को सेलिब्रेट करता है. And this is a big contribution to the humankind. She did not only work for people who are disabled, but she also worked for people who were in otherwise downtrodden. जो दूसरे अन्यायों के साथ जी रहे थे, उन लोगों के लिए भी हेलन केलर खड़ी हुई. वो चाहे अमेरिकन पीपल फॉर सिविल लिबर्टीज का स्थापना हो, क्योंकि वहाँ उस समय लोग सिविल लिबर्टीज के लिए जो लोगों की स्वतंत्रता है, स्वायत्ता है, उस पर काम करने के लिए बहुत सारे लोग आगे नहीं आते थे, उसके लिए उन्होंने आवाज उठाई. और इस काम के लिए उनका नॉमिनेशन नोबेल प्राइज के लिए भी हुआ था. ये अलग बात है कि किसी और को नोबेल प्राइज मिला, लेकिन उनका नॉमिनेशन हुआ, ये एक अपने आप में बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है. साथ ही उन्होंने हमारी जिंदगी में ऐसे ऐसे वाक़ये दिए. She has given us so many incidences that we can learn from them. You know, Uttam was talking about some of the quotes, some very, very powerful quotes. You know, whether you talk about alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. कि हम अकेले होकर बहुत कम काम कर सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर हम मिले, एक दूसरे के साथ आए, तो हम बहुत ज्यादा काम कर सकते हैं. साथ ही उन्होंने अपने एक कोट में ये भी कहा है कि जिंदगी सिर्फ आराम से बैठकर गुजारने की चीज नहीं है. हमारा चरित्र उससे नहीं बढ़ेगा, उससे नहीं मजबूत होगा. हमारा चरित्र जिंदगी में जो तकलीफें आती हैं, उन तकलीफों से लड़के जब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं, हमारा चरित्र उतना ही स्ट्रांग बनेगा. So she has given some really very inspiring, path breaking examples to us, and I'm so glad that today we have some of the great people who are going to talk to us in terms of how Helen Keller has touched their lives, and also how in today's pandemic we can use Helen Keller's examples and get inspiration and move forward. जो पैनलिस्ट हमारे हैं वो आज आप लोगों के साथ बात करने वाले हैं. उनमें ईशान चक्रवर्ती हैं जो जादवपुर यूनिवर्सिटी में असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर हैं. साथ ही राजीव भाई हैं, राजीव रतूरी, जो नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन, भारत के नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन में स्पेशल मॉनिटर हैं ऑन डिसेबिलिटी इश्यूज. साथ ही नंदिता जी हैं जो डेफ ब्लाइंड यूनिट और एनएबी दिल्ली में प्रिंसिपल तो हैं, साथ ही साथ एक माता है जिनके पास एक ऐसी बच्ची है जिसका उन्होंने जब लालन पालन करने के लिए हेलन केलर के बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल्स का इस्तेमाल किया है. साथ ही साथ हमारे साथ में एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इंसान है जो हमको आने वाले समय के लिए तैयार करने में मदद करेंगे. पुणे से हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं डॉक्टर सुधीर राय, हु इज COO ऑफ ग्रांट मेडिकल फाउंडेशन, जो हमारे लिए, जो अब हम थर्ड वेव की बात कर रहे हैं, पेंडेमिक का तीसरा फेज जो शुरू होने की बात कर रहे हैं, उसमें हम किस तरह से अपने आप को तैयार करें उसके बारे में बात करेंगे. सो आई एम वेरी प्लीज्ड that all of you, all four of you are with us, and I thank you all for taking out time this Sunday morning to be with us and celebrate Helen Keller Day. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for correcting me that I forgot to mention Beruz ma'am and Dr. Leelavati ma'am as well. So we will going to start with our video message, and with the start of Helen Keller quote that everything has its wonders, even darkness and silence. And I learn whatever state I may be in, therein to be in content. This was said by Helen Keller, and with this, I would request Rashmikant to share the maiden video, who will be sharing her video message to us that what all she faced during pandemic, and she's from Meghalaya.
Yes, sir. Screen is
Hello, my name is Maiden Sobin. I am from Shillong, Meghalaya. Now, I'm still waiting for my 10th board exams, and I am deafblind. The challenges which I face during COVID lockdown are I have problems that I am not able to meet my friends, and the ones which I can contact, they don't know how to sign. Shops are closed in which I cannot recharge my mobile, and if I try to communicate, they do not understand. Have difficulty in financial support. I am not able to go for my eye checkups as it is too expensive. And also, my younger siblings find it difficult to come back home as he is out of station due to COVID. And now due to COVID, to go for a daily wage, it's difficult because here everything is closed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this was the message by Maiden Soben from Meghalaya. And you can understand that what all problems and challenges faced by Maiden and other deafblind people in the country due to COVID. And now we have Mr. Ishan Chakrabarti from Kolkata. He is representing us for the persons with deaf blindness. He himself is visually impaired with the partial hearing loss, and he is assistant professor in English literature. And we have requested him to share the concerns which deafblind people faced in terms of educational challenges. Their family members must have faced that educational challenges. So he is also guiding us through during our weekly meetings what should be done, and his insights are very useful for us to bring young adults to come in a forefront. So over to you, Ishan.
Namaskar. I hope I'm visible and audible, right? I'm visible and audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much, Sense International India, for having me here, for giving me this platform. Well, I'm going to, I think I have like 20 minutes or so to speak. So I think I will split up my talk into two parts. Number one, challenges. Yes, I will definitely talk about challenges. It is important to talk about challenges. And in the second part, I will try to talk a little about the way forward. So I'll try to cover both as precisely as possible. Now, of course, today we are observing / celebrating. I prefer the word celebrating. We are celebrating Helen Keller Day. It is our day. We were listening to the quotes of Helen Keller. We were listening to, in brief, we were listening to the life of Helen Keller. Now, when we read Helen Keller's autobiography or her biography, the first thing that comes to us is education. Really, I mean, her life story in many ways, it starts from her 7th birthday. I mean, just before her 7th birthday, the day Anne Sullivan comes to her house, right? And she calls it her, quote, soul's birthday. That is how she describes that particular day. So education and education alone can serve as that torch. And by education, I mean education in the largest sense of the word, in the biggest sense of the word, right? And not in the narrow sense of curriculum and a few degrees, a few certificates. So education and education alone can be the light for persons with disabilities, definitely for persons with deaf blindness and their empowerment. Now, prior to March 2020, because that is the month which I remember, 13th March 2020, that is the precise date. Post 13th March 2020 in West Bengal, we started having our lockdowns, right? The all India, the pan-India lockdown started a little later, but in West Bengal, we had it from 14th March, I believe. So prior to that, before that, if I may call it the pre-COVID era, if you may allow me to call that the pre-COVID era, deaf-blind persons like us, and I will talk about myself a little later, but let me talk about deaf-blindness in general first. Deaf-blind persons, deaf-blind students, deaf-blind children, their condition vis-a-vis education was extremely difficult. I mean, there is no there's no doubt about that, right? There is no debate on that issue. Inaccessibility in every sphere of the society, and education is no exception in that case, right? Not only the lack of braille books, but also the materials, the handouts which are given out in the class, the way the teachers instruct, the mode of instruction, everything in every sphere, we have a lack of awareness, we have lack of accessibility, and so on. Of course, there are hopes, there are lights here and there are stories where we actually see teachers coming forward. There are certain brilliant organizations like Sense International India and the organization I am associated with in Kolkata Society for the Empowerment of Differently Abled, but they are NGOs, they are non-government organizations. They are not in the position of making policies, right? But if I think of the government, what government was doing in order to make things accessible for deaf-blind persons, I have nothing much to say. I mean, I think the list ends where it begins, if I may put it that way. There were tokenisms here and there, but that was about it, more or less. But in the post-COVID, or in the COVID and post-COVID era, if I may call it that, right? Post-March 2020, if I can phrase it that way. In the COVID and the post-COVID era, the cases of inaccessibility, the issue of inaccessibility just became manifold. Because suddenly we were restricted to our screens. It was the digital screen era. It not only became the COVID and the post-COVID era, but it became the era of the screens of laptops and mobile phones, etc. Now we can completely understand there are a few things that we have to admit right at the beginning. And this is something which we also got from the video that we were listening to, from Medan's video that we were listening to. And I'm sure there are more such videos to come in. Poverty and disability are inextricably interlinked in a country like India. And this is something, of course, this is a sentence which I'm not coming up with the sentence. I'll have to again go back to Helen Keller for that, right? Her Marxist understanding. We forget, when we talk about Helen Keller, we forget that she was also a political thinker. She was also a sociologist. We often think of her as a woman, as the first deaf-blind woman who got the Bachelor of Arts degree. Of course, that's true, but she was also a very important Marxist politician and a political thinker. So it is she, again, Helen Keller talked about this, that poverty, workplace environments, deplorable conditions, deplorable living conditions, they are inextricably linked with disability. And I don't think I'll have to separately spell out how poverty became a even more common experience. It became all pervasive, as it were, in India post-March 2020. Let alone the question of education, proper nutrition, shelter, regular activities, everything came to a dead stop. And things have, believe me, things have not significantly improved for many of my disabled friends, many of my deaf-blind friends, right? Many of them have actually, they have been compelled to withdraw their education. I know such cases, I know such people. So education has been, the first area which has been struck is education, as far as disability is concerned, as far as deaf-blindness is concerned. Now, in order to navigate through the digital world, you need access, you need financial access, you need digital access. I don't have data, and the lack of data speaks volumes about it. How many of our government websites are actually accessible to persons with blindness, to persons with deafness? That will say a lot. Information. And education and information have, fortunately or unfortunately, become synonymous in 2021, right? And there is a deluge of information everywhere, right? We get education, I mean, people who are able-bodied persons, they get education not only from their Zoom classrooms, but also they get education from outside. They get education from other videos, other social media, etc. But how much of that is actually accessible for persons with deaf blindness? How many websites have been made accessible for persons with deaf blindness? We were talking, and we are talking about a phenomena called, quote, the new normal. And here I would want to unpack the phrase new normal a little. We know the word normal itself is exclusionary. So when we are talking about new normal, are we trying to talk about a new set of exclusions? Or are we trying to envision, are we trying to think of a world where the idea of normalcy is going to be challenged? We know, every one of us, we have seen how normalcy, how the idea of normalcy can actually be challenged overnight. Just a few hours, and everything that was supposedly normal came to a standstill. So a new set of laws, a new set of protocols, a new set of rules became the norms, became the normal. Then if we are trying to conceptualize a new normal, why can't we start thinking of an inclusive normal right from its inception? Why is disability always an afterthought? Why are we to send? First, we will have to send the recommendations, and then policymakers are going to think about it. Why can't it be thought right from the scratch? We are there to raise our voice, and we will raise our voice. That is all right. But normal, the entire idea of normal is to be challenged here. The next point that I'm going to cover is of course, without talking about the National Education Policy 2020, we cannot talk about educational challenges vis-a-vis COVID-19 in 2021. Today, we are talking about deaf blindness, educational challenges, COVID, but we will have to take into consideration the sea change that NEP promises to bring. And I emphasize on the word promise. When I went through the document of NEP, for me, it sounded like high rhetoric and low on reality. Here I am quoting, this is a phrase which was used by one of the activists in her write-up, Shampa Sengupta. So high on rhetoric, really it was high on rhetoric. There were many promises, various kinds of words and phrases were used to denote persons with deaf blindness. There was no consistency. But throughout the NEP, there were many promises made as far as inclusion is concerned, as far as quote unquote special education is concerned, children with quote unquote special needs are concerned, etc. But how much of that would actually translate into reality is something to be questioned, is something to be thought about very, very deep. That is the next point which I wanted to touch upon. Let me also touch upon the important question of researchers, academicians, because here we are talking about education and not merely school education, right? Education, it also encompasses higher education. I am a person associated with higher education, myself a researcher, a PhD scholar, and I'm also teaching in one of the universities. So what have I faced as far as my education is concerned? I am highly dependent on readers, and we know how important support persons are in the lives of persons with deaf blindness, right? We talk about Anne Sullivan, and there are so many other support persons. And Helen Keller herself talks about at least 2 or 3 other important support persons over there in her life. And she says that she's indebted to them. So my reader, my amanuenses, they were not available. I was compelled to contact with them over phone. And here the next problem comes in. Because of my partial deafness, I have been strictly asked by my ENT specialist not to use my mobile phones for longish periods of time. But that was the only option available. So that was the first thing. The second thing is the libraries are not available. The books which are available in the library, how can I access them? Now you can say that, of course, this was the problem with other able-bodied persons as well. No, but there's a difference. There was a certain period, there were 2 or 3 months where the reading rooms of the libraries were open. Now just think of it. 2 or 3 hours, I'll have to get hold of a person who can actually read out those stuff to me. I'll have to find his or her time. I'll have to find my time. Both has to match with the 2 or 3 hour span of that library, of that reading room. Then I'll have to take him or her there and read the books, record them, and bring back for my research work. Just think of it, how cumbersome it can be, how difficult / impossible it can be for a researcher with deafblindness. Audiobooks. Of course, quite a few audiobooks were made available, but as far as the need is concerned, it was negligible, I must admit. Braille books, let me not even get into that area. Let me not even start talking about the availability of Braille books. Teachers and teaching, the entire pedagogy, it suddenly got changed. Everything just became screen dependent, PowerPoint presentations, and screen shares, etc. And it suddenly became so difficult, all the more difficult for persons with deafblindness, which in turns leads to a greater chasm. What happens is, when a certain section of the society gets the privilege and the other section does not, is denied of that privilege, the chasm becomes even more. We were underprivileged, we were oppressed, and I use that very politically charged word, oppressed, even before the COVID pandemic era. But post-pandemic, or in the pandemic period, the chasm, the discrimination, the oppression, if I may use that word, has become manifold. But those were the challenges that I was talking about. What about the way forward? Is there any way forward? Yes, I think there are. Number one, the pedagogy. The pedagogy has to be revamped from the scratch. We, the teachers, will have to take the responsibility. Again, let us go back to Anne Sullivan, right? She did not give up. That is why Helen did not give up. So we cannot forget we cannot forget the story of Anne Sullivan. The 7th birthday of Helen Keller, that brilliant story. Water is flowing on her left hand, and on her right palm, Anne Sullivan is inscribing water, the letters of the word water. We cannot forget that moment, right? So we, the teachers, will have to come forward, and we will have to take the responsibility. The pedagogy has to be changed. The educational system will have to be made more relevant for persons with disabilities. How much of disabilities or deafblindness is actually represented in education? I'm not talking about those 1 or 2 pages which are present in the school books about Helen Keller, just a mere tokenism. I'm not talking about tokenism. I'm talking about real stuff. How much of true and correct picturization, correct representation, not all those problematic representations of disability, but the correct representation of disability is there in education. How much of other students who are not, who are temporarily able-bodied, I prefer to use that phrase, students who are temporarily able-bodied, how much of they know us? How much of they know our plight? So education system, the curriculum, everything has to be revamped from the scratch. And it is the time. We are actually thinking of drawing up a new kind of syllabus. We are even trying to think of new kind of examination systems, right? Because we know that the examination system will have to be revamped. It will have to be reconstructed, right? Then why can't we make the examination system more accessible for persons with deafblindness? Why can't we actually accept Braille answer scripts? Why can't we actually allow the I know a few universities, for example, in my own university, in my own department, for example, visually disabled students are allowed to type out their own answers by using the JAWS software or the NVDA software or other talking softwares, so to speak, right? So why can't this be made the norm?
Ishan, 2 minutes to
Yes,
wind up.
I think I'm overshooting time, right?
Yes, 2 minutes to wind up.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I think I will not speak longer. That's all that I had to say about education, challenges, and way forward. Of course, there can be other deliberations on this. There can be other thoughts on this. These were just a few things which I just wanted to sort of randomly pack up in 20 minutes. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Ishan, and you have given so many valid points to us. And this is the area where we need to discuss more, and we can have another full webinar on that topics. The national education policy and government of India came up with the e-learning content as well. So now we will have another two videos, short videos of parents. So we have listened Maiden as well as Ishan. So we will have a two short video from Raipur and Kolkata, and then we will move to Rajiv sir for his deliberation.
हेलो एवरीवन, मैं स्वीटी विलियम कोलकाता से। आई एम मदर ऑफ एलिस विलियम। एलिस एक डिब्लाइंड बच्ची है। मेरा ये मानना है हर एक चीज़ में पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव दोनों साइड रहता है। जैसे कि 2 महीने पहले मैं, मेरा हस्बैंड, मेरा एलिस, तीनों ही हम लोग एक साथ कोविड पॉजिटिव थे, और उस टाइम हम लोगों को ना किसी का सहायता मिला। हम लोगों को डॉक्टर के पास लेके जाने वाला भी कोई नहीं था, यहाँ तक खाना बनाने वाला भी कोई नहीं था। एक ही साथ हम दोनों आदमी का जॉब भी चला गया 1.5 साल पहले कोविड-19 की वजह से। तो घर चलाने में हम लोगों को बहुत दिक्कत होती है। कहाँ जाए बच्चे को छोड़ करके, कहीं काम भी नहीं है आज अभी का टाइम में। और बट इसका एक पॉजिटिव साइड भी है, जो इस लॉकडाउन पीरियड में मैं फुल टाइम अपनी बच्ची को दे पा रही हूँ, बहुत सारा चीज़ उसे सिखा पा रही हूँ, बहुत सारा टाइम उसके साथ स्पेंड कर पा रही हूँ, जो पहले नहीं कर पाती थी इस भागादौड़ी की ज़िंदगी में। मेरा मानना है कि एक टीचर से भी ज़्यादा एक माँ एक बच्चे के लिए बहुत अच्छा टीचर हो, बेहतरीन टीचर है। सो हर एक चीज़ में पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव साइड तो होती ही रहती है, तो हमें लोगों को सावधानी बरतनी चाहिए। स्टे सेफ एंड स्टे हेल्दी।
Thank you. And now we will have another video of Asha Jain from Raipur.
Hello everyone, my name is Asha from Raipur. I am mother of Jhalak Jain. इस कोविड के समय में सबसे ज़्यादा हमारे बच्चे स्कूल को मिस कर रहे हैं। जब वो स्कूल बैग, टिफ़िन, कलर्स को देखती है तो ऐसा लगता है कि वो मुझसे पूछ रही है कि मम्मा मुझे स्कूल कब भेज रहे हो। एक अरसा हो गया वो उन्हें स्कूल गए हुए। बेंच पर बैठना, कलर करना, गार्डन में घूमना, ये सब वो बहुत मिस कर रही है। मेरी बेटी खुश हो जाया करती थी जब वो स्कूल जाती थी, टाइम पर तैयार हो जाती थी, टीचर से नई नई चीज़ें सीखती थी। ये सब उसे बहुत अच्छा लगता था। ABC सीखना और पत्तों पे ड्राइंग करना, ये सब वो बहुत मिस कर रही है। घर पर कुछ कमरों पे हम उन्हें स्कूल वाली फीलिंग नहीं दे पा रहे हैं। इस कोविड के दौर पर हमारे बच्चे ना तो बाहर निकल पा रहे हैं और ना ही उनका मानसिक विकास हो पा रहा है, क्योंकि बच्चे बच्चों के साथ रह के सीखते हैं। वे बच्चों के साथ और अपने टीचर्स के साथ एक रिश्ता बना लेते हैं। घर पर वे चिड़चिड़े से हो गए हैं, गुस्सैल हो गए हैं और सिर्फ मोबाइल के आदी हो गए हैं। अब तो चिंता होने लगी है कि हमारे बच्चे जो इतना कुछ सीख गए थे कहीं वो उसे भूल ना जाएं। अब बच्चों को घर पर ही रहकर हमें संभालना होगा, क्योंकि कहते हैं कि जान है तो जहान है। अब बस एक ही प्रेयर की जा सकती है कि ये कोविड जल्द से जल्द ख़त्म हो जाए और हमारे बच्चे वापस स्कूल जाएं और हम उनके चेहरे की खुशी स्कूल जाने के टाइम जो उन्हें मिलती है हम वापस देख पाएं। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Rashmikant, for playing this. And now I would request Rajiv sir uh, to 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 help us to understand the provisions that parents and adults are sharing their concerns. They have suffered a lot during this disaster, during this pandemic, and we have a disaster management act in India, as well as we have some provisions for the disaster management in RPWD act as well. So Rajiv sir is a special rapporteur in disability in National Human Rights Commission, as well as he is a stalwart in bringing the legalities and bringing human rights for persons with disability in India as well. So over to you, Rajiv sir. So your camera is not on as of now.
Am I
Yeah.
audible? Am I audible?
Sir, you are audible, sir, but camera is not there. You are
One
not
second.
visible.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now visible.
So, नमस्कार, गुड मॉर्निंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू। मुझे मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ सेंस इंटरनेशनल को कि उन्होंने मुझे इनवाइट किया है बेसिकली टू स्पीक ऑन द लीगल प्रोविजंस फॉर पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज इन दिस पैंडेमिक टाइम। तो आई वाज लिसनिंग टू ईशान एंड ईशान ने बहुत डिटेल में बताया है किस तरह के चैलेंजेस पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज स्पेशली पीपल विद डेफ ब्लाइंडनेस हैव फेस्ड ड्यूरिंग द पैंडेमिक and this is something which was also brought out in a very recent consultation that we had in our recent consultation on impact of COVID on education of students with disabilities, and a lot of issues have been highlighted by the different groups. Inclusive education में जो काम कर रहे हैं, जो deaf schools के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, जो blind schools में काम कर रहे हैं, including students. So it was very interesting to listen to Ishan. So I have been asked to speak on the legal provisions for people with disabilities during the COVID. तो सबसे पहले मैं शुरुआत करता हूँ कि 2005 में एक कानून पारित हुआ था हमारे देश में, द नेशनल डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट एक्ट, और इस एक्ट के अंतर्गत एक नेशनल डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी का गठन होना था, स्टेट डिसेबिलिटी मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटीज, इवन अ डिस्ट्रिक्ट डिसेबिलिटी मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी। तो इन डिफरेंट लेवल्स पे, नेशनल, स्टेट और डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे अथॉरिटीज का गठन होना जरूरी था। इनके अलावा नेशनल एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी, एक स्टेट एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी का भी होना बहुत जरूरी था। इस अथॉरिटी का बेसिक काम क्या है कि they are supposed to lay down guidelines for various departments and various ministries to lay down the disaster management plan. They're supposed to provide technical assistance to the state authorities, to district authorities, to various ministries, how the plan has to be made. They're supposed to monitor the national plan as well as the plans which are being made by the various ministries and various departments. ऑफिशियल्स की ट्रेनिंग करवाना बहुत ज़रूरी एक काम है जो एक एनडीएमए का है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल ऑफिशियल्स, स्टेट लेवल ऑफिशियल्स। और बहुत इंटरेस्टिंगली ये जो कानून है ये ऑर्फन्स के बारे में बात करता है, विडोज के बारे में बात करता है, लेकिन पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज़ के बारे में बिल्कुल बात नहीं करता है, विच इज़ स्ट्रेंज, क्योंकि पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज़ को कोई भी डिजास्टर सिचुएशन हो, चाहे वो रिस्क सिचुएशन, कैलामिटी या कोई आपदा आती है, तो सबसे पहले आपको पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज के बारे में, उनके रेस्क्यू रिहैबिलिटेशन के बारे में सोचना है, लेकिन ये कानून उसके बारे में नहीं सोचता अनफॉर्चुनेटली। 2019 में एक मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स ने डिसेबिलिटी इंक्लूजन डिजास्टर रिस्क रिडक्शन गाइडलाइंस निकाली। सो दीज वर बेसिकली रिलीज्ड इन समवेयर अराउंड दिसंबर 2019। और ये जो DIDRR गाइडलाइंस है, अनफॉर्चुनेटली क्योंकि पैंडेमिक 2020 अर्ली शुरू हुआ, मार्च में लॉकडाउन शुरू हुआ, तो ये गाइडलाइंस का अवेयरनेस हम लोगों को था और ये गाइडलाइंस का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन होना was a little difficult. So these guidelines have been framed so that you can protect the risk and rescue people with disabilities in situations of risk and disasters. and they are supposed to cover all the stages of disaster risk reduction, which include mitigation of the disaster, preparedness, how prepared you are to rescue people with disabilities in situations of disaster, response or mitigation, recovery and mitigation. तो ये गाइडलाइंस अच्छी है बेसिकली, और ये सॉर्ट ऑफ दे डिटेल आउट की गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स को किस तरह से दे हैव टू वर्क विद पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज कभी भी कोई आपदा की सिचुएशन आती है। इसके अलावा राइट्स ऑफ पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट है, जो डिजास्टर में सिचुएशन ऑफ पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज के बारे में जरूर बात करती है। प्रिंसिपल्स जो कानून में है, द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ इक्वालिटी, नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन एंड रीजनेबल अकोमोडेशन, ये सब एप्लीकेबल होते हैं टू पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज इन ऑल सर्कमस्टेंसेस, चाहे वो रोजगार का बात हो, चाहे वो एजुकेशन का बात हो, चाहे वो डिजास्टर का बात हो। तो द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ इक्वालिटी, नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन एंड रीजनेबल अकोमोडेशन विल बी एप्लीकेबल। इसके अलावा धारा 8 बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि वो स्पेसिफिकली मेंशंस अबाउट right of people with disabilities to protection against any situation of risk, disaster, calamity, even situation of conflict. You know, there are some states where we have some sort of a conflict situation. So in all kinds of situations, this section becomes very important, section 8. And this asks the national and state disaster management authorities to ensure that people with disabilities are included in all their plans. आपको disability के बारे में अपने सारे plans में आपको incorporate करना है। धारा 8.3 जो है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। वो कहती है कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी जो है हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हमारे देश में, वहाँ पे उनके पास एक लिस्ट होना चाहिए ऑफ पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटी, जिससे कि कोई आपदा के समय में वो उनको दे कैन रीच आउट टू पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज एंड रेस्क्यू एंड रिहैबिलिटेट सर्विसेज कैन बी प्रोवाइडेड टू देम। ये 8.3 इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस। Unfortunately, this has not been activated in most of the states except maybe Kerala and maybe a few more. There is no data of people with disabilities at the district level, and we have experienced it. We have experienced it in the lockdown that people with disabilities suffered because they could not be reached out to. उनको खाना नहीं मिला, उनको dry rations नहीं मिले, उनको cooked food नहीं मिला, बहुतों को pension नहीं मिला, and there were all sorts of challenges that people with disabilities faced. अगर ये लिस्टिंग हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी के पास होता तो शायद ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं आता, और people with disabilities could have been reached out to in the situations of the lockdown. इसके अलावा ये जो धारा है ये कहती है कि अगर कोई रिकंस्ट्रक्शन एक्टिविटी आप करेंगे पोस्ट कैलामिटी, पोस्ट डिजास्टर, तो उसमें आपको कमिश्नर डिसेबिलिटीज को कंसल्ट करना पड़ेगा एक्टिवली कोई भी रिकंस्ट्रक्शन एक्टिविटी में। इसके अलावा हमारा जो राइट्स ऑफ पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट है वो धारा 24 में very clearly says that you have to protect people with disabilities in situations of risk and man-made disasters as well. सपोर्ट आपको प्रोवाइड करने पड़ेगा। धारा 25 हेल्थ पे है, और वो कहता है दैट आपको फ्री हेल्थ केयर फॉर पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज एज क्लोज टू देयर होम्स, barrier free access in all parts of government hospitals etc, and priority in attendance and treatment। तो ये priority in attendance and treatment बहुत important है, और ये बहुत clearly हमारे डिसेबिलिटी लॉ में लिखा गया है, और ये becomes very important because अभी वैक्सीनेशन ड्राइव देश में शुरू हो रही है। और इसी धारा 24 में क्लियरली मेंशन है कि हेल्थ केयर आपको प्रोवाइड करनी पड़ेगी टू पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज इन सिचुएशंस ऑफ डिजास्टर। Important sections of the law mention about disability and disaster. 2020 में जब कोविड चालू हुआ था, यूएन ने एक पॉलिसी ब्रीफ निकाली थी, यूएन पॉलिसी ब्रीफ ऑन पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज एंड कोविड, और उसने कहा था कि पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज आर मोर लाइकली टू लूज देयर फॉर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड दे विल फाइंड इट मोर डिफिकल्ट टू गेट बैक टू वर्क। Children with disabilities are least likely to benefit from online learning, and they will have to struggle without any support during lockdowns. Persons with disabilities living in institutions will find it very difficult to maintain social distancing and norms which are required to be maintained during the pandemic. And Domestic violence is likely to increase, and children, women, and children with disabilities will bear the brunt of this domestic violence. The policy brief recommends कि हर सरकार को एक human rights approach लेना है when it comes to people with disabilities. आपको रिस्पॉन्स रिकवरी में उनका भागीदारी दिखाना है, आपको डीपीओस को इन्वॉल्व करना है, और आपको फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज का आपको सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड करना है टू पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज एंड देयर फैमिलीज, क्योंकि उनकी फैमिलीज में भी बहुत लोगों की नौकरियां चली गई हैं. और तो ये बेसिकली दीज आर द प्रोविजंस हमारे डिसेबिलिटी लॉ में, नेशनल डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट एक्ट में, यूएन पॉलिसी ब्रीफ में हमने जो देखा है. जो हमने ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन ने लास्ट ईयर एक कमेटी का गठन किया था, और उसमें उन्होंने स्टेट एडवाइजरीज भेजी है टू स्टेट्स एंड यूनियन टेरिटरीज की आप आंकड़े तो कम से कम रखिए अपने पास, हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में आंकड़े रखिए. हेल्थ को लेके बहुत ज़्यादा इश्यूज रहे हैं. जो हीमोफीलिया अफेक्टेड पर्सन है उनको फैक्टर नहीं मिला, थैलेसीमिया के जो अफेक्टेड पर्सन है उनको ब्लड नहीं मिला, और काफ़ी स्टेट्स में डेथ्स भी हुई हैं ऑफ चिल्ड्रन विद डिसेबिलिटीज बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ ब्लड. और दो स्टेट्स में जहाँ पे हमने केसेस फाइल किए हैं इज बिहार एंड झारखंड, जहाँ हमारे पास डॉक्यूमेंटेड एविडेंस है of children with thalassemia dying because of lack of blood and lack of transfusion. बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस हैं. शिक्षा के संस्थान सब बंद है, ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन हमारे बच्चे एक्सेस नहीं कर पा रहे, उनके पास मोबाइल फोन्स नहीं है, लैपटॉप्स नहीं है, जबकि एडिप स्कीम गवर्नमेंट की बोलती है कि आप लैपटॉप्स प्रोवाइड कीजिए, आप स्मार्टफोन प्रोवाइड कीजिए. So lot of challenges, but the groups need to come forward, parents groups need to come forward, and they need to sort of agitate for their rights. Thank you, धन्यवाद, and stay safe. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you, sir. And you have clearly pointed out where we need to work upon, and we need to advocate. We need to bring our parents group in forward, so they can take up the lead in terms of getting all these things. So as Helen Keller says, when one door of happiness closes, another opens. So we need to open that door as well. But often we look so long at the closed door. So our yeah, yes, sir, Akhil sir, yes, sir.
Raju bhai, thank you very much for pointing out those specifics, and we would come back to you for these specifics and details, and with your guidance we would take it up in our active advocacy work as well. Thank you very much for those.
Thank you again. Stay safe, all of you.
Thank you, sir. So this is the time where we will see another video message of Venkat Lakshman from Kakinada. So I would request Rashmikant to show the video.
Hello everyone, my name is Lakshman. I am from Odimudi village, K. Gangavaram Mandalam, Uma Manu Vikas Kendra. During the lockdown, I am facing many difficulties. My business is running in a loss. There is no customer for purchasing the materials, and in this pandemic, more than 200 people have been infected with coronavirus in my village. In the paddy field, work's also not good. Nowadays, all costs are increased.
Thank you, Rashmikant, and thank you, Venkat, for sharing his thoughts that what all he has gone through during the pandemic. So now we will have another speaker who is well known, Nandita ma'am, and uh, Nandita ma'am is a principal of Deaf Blind and Multi Handicap Unit in National Association for the Blind, and NAB Delhi is our northern region regional center for deaf blindness. So she will talk about on the issues which are faced by the parents as well as the professionals, and she will ponder upon on the thoughts that where we suffered in terms of what all we have gone through during the pandemic, and still we are doing it
for our kids and young adults. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Deepak. I would rather be called a person who is been associated in this field for very long rather than a principal tag. And as Akhil sir mentioned, I am a parent too. So actually, I would try and share my personal experience of interacting with our friends, our parents, our teachers, what we have gone through this past more than a year and are actually continuing to do so. Some of the videos and our speakers, especially Ishan, touched on very, very relevant points. That is actually true, and that is exactly what I would also espouse for. So, at the risk of being repetitive, I would just try and make my points in brief and bring out what is the thought process that we need to go ahead with. So, thank you once again, Deepak. As we all know, Helen Keller is an important figure, not only an important figure, but an inspiration to so many of us. And that, as Ishan pointed out, has also the making of Helen Keller has not just been her being alone. The persons, the support, the Anne Sullivans behind her actually made her the figure that we look up to now. So, saluting all the Helen Kellers and the Anne Sullivans of today on this very, very important day in our field of disability. Alone, we can do so little, together, we can do so much. A quote very, very often repeated, but the meaning holds still true. It's not the whole idea that we can go it alone and the idea that we need to join hands gives a very, very strong message to our field of deafblindness. So, beginning with, because today, relating deafblindness, its effects that we had thanks to the pandemic, I would try and dwell on some of the points which have been actually made by our previous speakers and what's there in the video, especially by the parents. So let's just try and, is my screen visible?
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay, just a minute. Technology. Okay, share screen. Share. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. It is now. It is coming. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, what Ishan said, pandemic, the new normal and the new vocabulary. Are we going to accept this new normal, which I agree with him, has to be more inclusive and not exclusive? Normal itself had a lot that needed inclusion. Now we have another new normal added to it. Some of the terms I've just picked up at random that we are very often using in the past 1 year. Social distancing. Social distancing is the exact antithesis of what we in the field of deafblindness have espoused all along. Bring the environment to the child. Let the child feel that you are there. Let the child interact with people. Hear what we are saying, stay away from people. Maintain a distance. Maintain sometimes a distance that may not be very feasible for especially children who have both their senses affected of vision and hearing. No touch policy. How do you expect a deafblind child to move around without touching any surface? You were saying, let's not maybe shake hands. How do you express that I am there without touching the child? The child is not able to see, the child is not able to hear, and we are saying no touch policy. All this, especially social distancing and no touch policy, we go outside, we try and minimize touching the surfaces. How does that same policy work with children with disabilities? Zooming of virtual media. We've literally, virtual media is zoomed into our lives. We are all on Zoom the whole day long. What toll does it take on the persons with disability? How accessible is it to most of them? I would say we still do not have so many Ishans in our field who have the, I would say, uh, place from where he can espouse, talk of higher education, talk of things that are accessible. Even for him, accessibility is a big issue. What about those in the rural areas? What about those who do not have access to even a basic smartphone? And we are trying to zoom everything into their lives. Work from home and work at home. Very true for parents in general, I would say. Parents who are doing jobs, they are working from home. But at the same time, they have huge work at home. So it's like we are trying to make everybody superhuman beings so that they are able to cope up through this pandemic. Shrinking of spaces. Your house has become the park, the gym, the theater, the TV room, the office, the therapy center, the music room. Everything has been confined into the four walls of your house. How does this work in future? Thoughts to ponder. Now, these were the general words that I picked at random when we are talking about pandemic. All of us are using it very often. How does these same policies or words impact our deafblind children or deafblind adults? Most of it, from the adult's perspective, Ishan has already touched. I'll just run through what we are going to when we are talking about what are the impacts when we are talking about children and adults with deafblindness. We have limited their opportunities for interaction. We have isolated them from the outside world. We have cloistered them into the four walls with minimum interaction to the outside world. There's disruption of routine. One mother very nicely pointed out that her child is now eagerly waiting to go to school. Here, the child has been spending and spending and spending months on together with just his family as interaction, with just his house at his environment. The child is spending sleepless nights. There is no physical activity, very limited physical activity. The result is also you have sleep pattern disruptions. You are sleeping through the day, waking through the night because you have no regular routine to follow. Health is taking a toll. I'm not just talking about pandemic. What about the health of those children who need to visit the doctors regularly? As parents, as adults, we are postponing their visits to the hospital as far as possible. Toothache, give the child medicine, give the child some nature cure. Let's not visit the dentist. Let's not visit the therapist. Every aspect apart from COVID, health related issues is taking a backseat because of COVID. And as I said, environment, also has suddenly become super restricted just to your four walls in most cases. Impact on children. Ah, you just heard from the mother. The child is actually wanting to go to school. Where are the school bags? Where are the school vans? Where are the drivers with whom they used to love interacting? Where are the friends? Where are the peer interaction? Where is that daily bright bag, maybe the tiffin, the bottle that the child used to look forward to every day? Suddenly, all that has just disappeared from the radar. It's just gone away. We don't know when is it going to come back. Visit to the dentist, as I said, health apart from COVID, the other health issues have also taken a big backseat, often may result into things that one wouldn't like it to deteriorate into. There are no parks, there are no swings, there are no walks, there are no outdoor activities. Within the room, you have the therapy ball, maybe maximum. That is your physical activity that you can offer the child. There are no interactions beyond parents. Where are your dadas and dadis and nanas and nanis? Where are your uncles and aunts with whom you used to interact? Everywhere travel restriction is there. Even if you're inside the same town, the interaction is very limited. Everybody is scared. Everybody prefers, okay, today is a wedding, today is a birthday party, the zooming, as I said, all celebrations on Zoom. How does it actually affect our children? For them, Zoom is maybe not accessible. Most of them would not be able to hear what is on Zoom. Most of them would not be able to see what is on Zoom. If there was physical interaction, the whole process of actually socialization, getting together, sinks into the child. There are no bare hugs. We said maintain a distance. We say stay away. Don't come close. Don't shake hands. Maintain a distance. So, all of this is going to impact the emotional and the stress level of the child as well as the parents. On adults, total reliance on gadgets and technology. How many of them have access to the latest technology, have access to computers, have access to maybe tablets, maybe orbit readers, screen readers? How many of them have access to that? Just the whole system of education, the whole system of interaction, as I mentioned, even the social activities, everything has moved into this screen space. One screen, and all the activities are through that. Some of us are lucky that we have accepted this and are able to access, but there is a larger population which still does not have access to this kind of technology that we've been forced to adapt in this past 1 year. Again, for them, outdoor activities, physical exercises, just going out and walking in the park, जिम आप छोड़िए, इवन ऐसे भी चलना फिरना, you're supposed to, in most of the societies I know, you're supposed to wear a mask and walk. How is that possible? Masking everybody, asking them to take walks inside a complex, how much of physical activity do we actually end up doing? Lack of accessible medical equipments. God forbid, if a deaf-blind person is staying alone, how do we have accessible oximeters? Do we have accessible medical equipments that a person with deaf blindness can manage alone? I'm sure the others will be able to enlighten, but how many of the government sites, especially when we are talking about the vaccination sites, how many of us are able to use the COVID app and register independently, not without requiring anybody's help? How many of us have been able to vaccinate without issue? There are policies, there are centers specially open for persons with disability. That advocacy has worked. But are the vaccines available there? Or it's just the centers that are there? In Delhi, I know we still are running short on vaccines for 18 plus in the disability centers. Still, the vaccines are not available. So, what do the parents do? What do the adults do? Rely on the crowded centers that are there, and probably then the whole purpose of setting up separate centers for persons with disability to make it more accessible, to make it more easy, the whole purpose fails. So definitely we need a look in there. And financial constraints, loss of jobs, pay cuts, everything has taken a toll on persons with disability. Now coming to the parents' perspective. How are the parents of children with disability dealing since the past 1 year? Huge multitasking required for parents. Suddenly, they've become all in one. Disruption of routine, financial losses. We know of parents who've lost jobs, who have been working in maybe the retail sector, in the malls. Suddenly, their jobs have been lost. Who's going to the malls? The retail shops are not opening. There are no customers in the shops. Everything is resulting in pay cuts and job losses. So it could be a person who's working in the parlor, a person who's working in the restaurant, a person who's working in the malls, airline sector, tourism, daily wage earners, migrant laborers, you name it, across board, people have suffered financially. Across income stratas, across sections of society, there has been huge, tremendous loss in the pay cuts.
Ma'am, 2 minutes.
Oh my. So, health, as I said, environment, health, all of this has taken a toll on the impact, has taken a toll on the parents. Just few more slides. As I said, multitasking. Suddenly the parents have become the teachers, the therapists, the music teachers, photographers, videographers. We are asking parents, आप बच्चे का फोटो खींच के भेजो, आप बच्चे का वीडियो बना के भेजो. So all in all, the mother, the father has taken a multitask role. How does a parent deal when he is down, he or she is down with COVID, or when the entire family is down with COVID? How do they take care of the deafblind child? How do they cope up with the stress due to lack of socialization? From teachers' perspective, of course, the whole conventional method had to be redone. We had to move to virtual mode. Teachers had to adapt to the virtual mode, accept how to prepare learning materials for virtual mode, and go ahead. The brighter side, we all have become more technology savvy. The family is, there is inclusion within the family. The parents are getting trained, and there is more involvement of the family. Just a slide of all our children who have been in school for so many years, all are waiting to come back, and we are waiting to welcome them back. We all hope that this period also passes away. Many a mountains we have climbed, many obstacles we have overcome, many a storm we have weathered. This too we shall conquer. The journey has never been alone. Together we have conquered, and together we will. With this positive thought, I would just like to share one small poem that one of our teachers wrote for her child. And I am just trying to spread the positive message instead of portraying a doomsday scenario. We have come so far, and I'm sure the future obstacles also we shall overcome. मैं भी कुछ कहना चाहती हूँ, सुन नहीं सकती तो क्या, देखकर सीखना चाहती हूँ, आगे मुझे है बढ़ना, साथ सभी का चाहती हूँ. This was written by my colleague Poonam for her small deaf-blind student, Shreya. So with this positive message on the day of Helen Keller, I would like to spread a positive message that whatever the obstacles, whatever the constraints, we shall overcome. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I know you have shared the video as well. So
It doesn't matter, Deepak. We can take it if there is time at the end.
sure, ma'am. We will showcase during the closing. And as we are moving ahead to our last presentation, before that we have another video of a parent, Sanjay Lalit from Ujjain. So, though we have Dr. Sudhir Rai with us, so sir, request you for a couple of minutes to showcase this video, and then we will have another session of yours. So, Rashmikant, if you can start the video.
दौर से गुजर रहे हैं, जो हमारे लिए भी एक नया अनुभव लेके आया, क्योंकि इसके पहले हमने कभी लॉकडाउन की कल्पना भी नहीं की थी कि ऐसा भी कभी हो सकता है. कभी कभी कहीं 1-2 दिन के कर्फ्यू वगैरह लगे, वो एक अलग बात थी. लेकिन इस बार का ये जो दौर है, बड़ा विचित्र दौर रहा, जहाँ हम लोग सारा जो अपने अपने कामों में व्यस्त हैं, और उसके बावजूद भी हम लोग इस लॉकडाउन को बहुत परेशानी के तौर पे हम लोगों ने महसूस किया. वहीं अगर मानसिक विकलांग बच्चों की बात करूं, तो मेरे बेटे तेजस ने, जिसकी उम्र 26 साल करीब है, उसने भी इस दौर को बड़ी मुश्किल से गुजारा, क्योंकि अभी तक वो एक रूटीन में बंधा हुआ था कि उसको घर से तैयार होना, नाश्ता करना, स्कूल के लिए जाना, और स्कूल से फिर घर आना, या स्कूल से हॉस्टल जाना, वहाँ के रूटीन में रहना. तो उसके लिए ये सारा एक विचित्र सा माहौल था, क्योंकि उसको ये समझाना मुश्किल था कि लॉकडाउन क्या है, मतलब क्यों लगाया है, क्यों ऐसा हो रहा है, क्यों उसको जाने नहीं दे रहे बाहर, अगर जा भी रहे तो मास्क क्यों लगाना पड़ रहा है. ये सारी चीज़ों में जिस तरह हम परेशान हुए, उसी तरह हमारे बच्चों ने उसको ज़्यादा परेशानी महसूस की इस दौर में. और ख़ासकर जब मैंने देखा कि स्कूल बंद हो गए हैं और उसका रूटीन बन ही नहीं पा रहा कुछ, तो दो एक दिन तो वो बड़ा ठीक रहा, लेकिन बाद में जो है वो भी चिड़चिड़ा हो गया कि उसको कुछ सूझ नहीं पड़ रहा था. जैसे उसको घर पे उसका रूटीन है कि वो अपने कंप्यूटर पे गेम खेल रहा है, या टीवी देख रहा है, या ड्राइंग बुक में अपने कलरिंग कर रहा है. तो उस दौरान उसका चिड़चिड़ापन इतना बढ़ा कि उसको कंप्यूटर ख़राब है तो तुरंत सुधराना है, या उसको कलरिंग बुक, भले ही एक पेज उसने कलर किया हो पर उसको नई कलरिंग बुक चाहिए, या उसको नए स्केच पेन्स चाहिए, भले उसके पास पहले से हैं. तो उसको ये समझाना बड़ा मुश्किल जा रहा था कि बाहर दुकानें बंद है. उसको ये नहीं पता था कि बाहर क्या माहौल चल रहा है. तो वो उसकी चिड़चिड़ाहट, उसकी डिमांड्स अपनी जगह थी, और उनको पूरा करना मेरे लिए एक नया टास्क था. तो कई जगह तो मैंने अपने मित्रों से संपर्क करके कुछ चीज़ें इकट्ठा करने की कोशिश की। कई बार व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप पे मैंने लोगों को कहा कि मुझे कलरिंग बुक की ज़रूरत है, या कई बार मैंने अपने मित्रों से संपर्क किया कि यार मुझे तुरंत कंप्यूटर ठीक कराना है, क्या करना चाहिए। तो ऐसे दौरान मतलब बड़ी मुश्किल से हम लोगों ने उसको संभाला। बीच में एक बार ये स्थिति भी बनी कि आसपास जो मकान है मेरे अड़ोसी पड़ोसी सारे कोरोना पीड़ित थे, और ऐसे दौर में हमें ये लगा कि उसको कैसे हम इससे बचा सकते। तो मैंने फिर रिक्वेस्ट की उनके फादर जॉर्ज से, तो उन्होंने उसको फिर कुछ दिनों के लिए हॉस्टल में शिफ्ट किया। तो कुछ दिनों की 8, 10, 15 दिनों की फिर राहत कि चलो अभी तेजस माँ है, तब तक अपन जो घर की व्यवस्थाएं बिगड़ी है उसको फिर सुधार लें, उसके लिए कहीं से ड्राइंग बुक्स अरेंज करके रख लें, कंप्यूटर ठीक करा के रख लें। इस तरह का टाइम गुजरा। फिर उसको धीरे धीरे उसको लगने लगा कि कुछ ना कुछ तो बात है कि ये लोग घर से जा नहीं पा रहे हैं बाहर। तो थोड़ी सी समझ उसमें आई कि वो भी थोड़ा थोड़ा कोऑपरेट करने लगा। लेकिन फिर वही बात हुई कि 2, 4, 8 दिन बाद फिर उसको यही लगने लगता कि ये सब क्या हो रहा है, सड़कें सुनसान क्यों दिख रही है, घर के आसपास जो लोग जैसे जो गुजरने वाले लोग हैं वो एकदम बंद क्यों हो गया है। तो बड़ी विचित्र मानसिकता से वो गुजरा है। अब चूंकि वो बोल सुन नहीं पाता, अपनी बात एक्सप्रेस नहीं कर पाता, तो इशारों से हमें समझाने की कोशिश करता, और हम भी उसको समझ के और उसकी डिमांड्स पूरी करके। तो सेकंड लॉकडाउन में तो ये दिक्कत हुई कि बहुत बुरी तरह से इन्फेक्शन फैल रहा था, सारे लोग परेशान थे कि क्या करें। इसी दौरान हॉस्टल भी बंद करना बच्चों को हो सकती है, तो इसलिए उन्होंने फिर रिक्वेस्ट किया कि आप अपने बच्चों को अपने घर ले जाओ, ठीक बनाए रखना और उसको खुश रखना कि वो किसी भी तरह अपने स्कूल को मिस ना करे, अपने फ्रेंड्स को मिस ना करे। इस तरह थोड़ा परेशानियों से का भरा हुआ ये दौर के लिए भी, और इस तरह के इस तेजस जैसे बच्चों के लिए भी ये एक ऐसा अनुभव था कि शायद ये लोग भी अपनी मेमोरी में इसको कहीं ना कहीं याद रखेंगे। तो इस तरह का ये 1, 1.5 साल का जो दौर गुजरा है बड़ी कठिनाइयों से भरा गुजरा है। मेरे बाकी पेरेंट्स साथी भी निश्चित रूप से इसको फील करते होंगे कि कैसे उन्होंने इस दौर को गुजारा, और सबकी अपनी अपनी स्मृतियां हैं। अब वापस नॉर्मल होने की ओर होंगे। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू रश्मिकांत एंड थैंक यू संजय जी। आपकी बातें बहुत ही उचित हैं और हमारे बच्चों ने किस तरीके से उसको समझा है और कैसे पेरेंट्स ने उसको समझाने की कोशिश करी है, इस माहौल में ढालने की कोशिश करी है, ये अपने आप में एक नया अनुभव है हमारे बीच में। अभी हम लोग अगले प्रेजेंटेशन की ओर बढ़ रहे हैं। वी हैव डॉक्टर सुधीर राय from Grant Medical Foundation, Pune. He is a COO there, and he is expert in emergency medicine, healthcare information technology, internal medicine, as well as medical education. So he has accepted our request on a very short notice for this presentation, and we have requested him to guide her further to prepare ourselves, our parents, on third wave. So, sir, we have a professional here, we have a family members here, as well as the senior teachers who are working with persons with deaf blindness. So, our population is a person cannot see, cannot hear, as well as cannot speak. So your guidance will help us further to prepare them for the wave 3, which we are expecting, and in that way we can provide better guidance, better primary health care as well. So over to you, sir. Sir, we cannot hear you. Your voice is not coming, sir.
The frame is also stuck.
Yeah.
Must be some problem with internet.
Sir, can you stop the video and start the sound? A very disturbed sound is coming, sir. No, the voice is breaking.
Hello.
Ji, may I request you to log out and log in again, please?
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you now.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Am I audible? Hello.
हेलो सर, आपका आवाज ब्रेक हो रहा है सर. हम लोग माफ़ी चाहेंगे, कुछ तकनीकी प्रॉब्लम है. सुधीर सर अभी ड्रॉप आउट हो गए हैं यहाँ से, so we will try to reconnect with Dr. Sudhir once again.
Hi. Good afternoon. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, very much audible. Sir, your voice is again breaking.
I'm from Sense International India. Thank you. For a different area and see if I'm.
सर, आपका आवाज कट के आ रहा है.
आप कैसा है?
अभी सही है सर.
हाँ जी. I'm sorry that your area. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, your voice is not coming.
Is my screen?
Can we share your
Okay. Is
PPT
my
from?
screen visualized?
Yes, sir. Now it is coming. But your PPT
Okay.
is not coming here as of now. Yes, sir. Now it is coming.
Now it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the technical glitch. I thank Sense International India, Deepak ji and Ketan Kapoor who got connected with me. All my dear friends who are differently able, I'm sorry if I could not or I'm not able to communicate as well, because this is there internationally seen that communication going 360 is a very difficult thing, but once it does, most of them understand it well. Now, starting with COVID, I'm sure all of you are having a great understanding about this disease, because since last 1.5 years, we've been just hearing COVID and COVID, nothing else but COVID. So much so that when our friends would ask, "Kya chal raha hai?" instead of fog, we would say COVID. So this is a lighter part. Now, understanding COVID-19. COVID-19 starts from November, goes back to November 2019, where this infection started from Wuhan. It's in China, and then gradually spread all over the world. The basic complaints of COVID-19 is similar to that what we have in terms of any general cough or flu fever. So the complaints are same. You get shortness of breath, you start with mild fever, you start with cough, you feel tired. Some of them feel tired first, then run fever, then start having cough. The unique part of this disease is some of them even start with loss of smell or loss of taste. So these things are the commonest complaint that most of them complain. Gradually, over a period of 2 3 days, they start complaining of sore throat. Some of them complain of cold. Some of them complain of headache. Body pains, loose motions, sometimes rashes in the body, and irritation in the eye are the few other complaints, or redness of eye are the other few complaints which people complain. If it is not treated, they gradually have cough, and this cough goes so bad that they start getting breathlessness, that is breathing difficulty. As they start having breathing difficulty, they find the every day-to-day work, even standing up or walking, becomes quite difficult. Now, within a period of time, if people go to the hospital and start treatment, many people can be treated only at home. Home care and isolation is all that is required. Now, when we talk about isolation, we all are now worried about the next third wave. So, as we talk about wave, it means that the infection going very high, and it is seen in large numbers in community. Now, in such cases, then we need to prepare ourselves. So the question is how we prepare ourselves. We definitely need to make all the health understanding, means which hospital is close by, which ambulance services are available at 24/7 on a call, and they will definitely come. Which hospitals will definitely take you if you are tentatively a COVID patient? Which are the centers which will send us lab services at home so that we can get ourselves tested? Understand all the emergency numbers. Now, many or few of them are isolated families, so they need to look out at friends, families, neighbors, where they can connect with people who would help them. So I definitely know that your community is very strong in helping each other. So having the right person's number and at such a place where you can get it when you need it is very important. Other thing is that we need to have all kind of sanitation equipments such as mask. We need to have sterilizers in small bottles, so you get these hand rubs which can use it, and some few medicines like paracetamol, some cough syrup which you regularly use to be there in the house. These will be the basic things which you can start before you reach out for a doctor. Other than that, we should also plan. Suppose there's a family of mother, father, two kids, or four friends, and there is only two rooms. Then how are we going to stay separate, or the person who's running fever stays separate at home? So how is he going to stay? What are his requirements if he is going to stay separate, and how the rest of them are going to manage the rest of the space? Now, if there is no space and it's a single room, you definitely should plan to find a place where you can go and be isolated from rest of the family, because out of emotion we definitely go and try to support a person, but we don't take enough care for ourselves to have to prevent ourselves from being infected. We have also seen that many people who are treating, or taking care of the person who is sick, they start getting infected. In such situations usually arise because they have not taken the preventive care. We shall be talking on this as we go down. So please understand that we should also get few groceries. Now lockdown is out. Get few groceries on a monthly basis, and whatever essentials you need on a monthly basis, and don't keep going out very often. The reason is we are again seeing that gradual climb in the numbers. It's there in paper. So all of you would be understanding that as people start going out freely, the infection would rise. So let us be careful and not go to places where it is not required. The most important problem that has been arising is sharing of information. We've been reading or we've been hearing.
Bapak?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. We've been reading a lot of things which were not concerning, and emotional output was high in such kind of information, and we kept on sending it forward without really understanding whether those things are right or wrong. Now, what happens is when such things keep going out, which is wrong and is being purposely targeted to haywire things or give a bad information in a very high content of emotion to people, people respond very badly. This is called as infodemic curve. So this infodemic curve, we really want the proper or the correct thing to go forward. So whenever you get any forward, please do not simply forward it to 100 people. Try to think whether this is right, because what happens is there are a lot of videos which were there from previous year or multiple years before, and it's from wrong places, just twisted a bit, tweaked a bit and sent forward. So understanding whether this fact is right or wrong, there are areas like Times of India gives you a column where you can put up these videos into those things and they can authenticate for you whether it's a right or wrong. If it is right, you can always give it forward. So the more you restrict in terms of source or whether it is a right fact or whether it is a thing that we need to really look at, if you do that, things would be different. So if it is really true, you can put it forward, then the true information goes forward. So flattening this infodemic curve is very important by just forwarding the right content. Talking about prevention, it's not a big thing to understand about prevention. For few of you who are differently able and can hear and see, I would share few videos. Those people who are not able to see, I will keep try to talk in between so that you can hear this.
Sir, your video is paused. Hello. Hello. I think we have lost Dr. Sudhir in between. So, Rashmikant, if you can play this video from your side.
Yeah, sure, sir. Just a second.
Deepak, anybody calling Dr. Sudhir Rai to check with him?
Yes, sir. I think Deepak said is in.
Sir, I'll do that. I'm doing it.
Really sorry about this, friends. The technical issues do erupt like this sometime. We are very sorry, but I'm sure that you all are finding something useful in our sessions. I definitely am finding a lot of useful issues being discussed, and some of the points raised by all the previous speakers has been very, very useful. So, yeah.
Sir, sir, Dr. Sudhir is online. He is on Zoom, but he is not able to connect on voice and things. So, as the video says that कि हमको बाहर ज़्यादा नहीं जाना है, crowded place में नहीं जाना है, और नाक, मुंह और आँखों को ज़्यादा नहीं छूना है, छींकते हुए अपनी एल्बो से कवर करना है. ये सारी चीज़ें जो 7 पॉइंट्स थे वो उस वीडियो में कवर हुए थे. And we will wait for 2 more minutes for Dr. Sudhir.
सुधीर सर को बोलिए कि वो फिर से लॉग आउट करके लॉग इन करें.
Yes, sir.
This opportunity to thank Gaurav and Manisha for their interpretation. Sorry about this silence. We are all still here, but we're giving a last try to get Sudhin sir.
Sir, while we wait for Dr. Sudhir to come back, some tips were given by Dr. Anuradha Shetty. If you permit, I can share those tips.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. Shetty, she is based in UK and has been closely working.
She is here online.
Right.
Parag.
Yeah. So should I request her to share it? Sir?
Yeah. Please. I think that she can talk to us directly. Anu ma'am, can you please unmute yourself or? Yeah.
And I can share the screen, ma'am, if you want.
Yes, Parag, please share it. Thank you.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is to me.
Yeah, so you can continue, ma'am.
It's visible to everyone, yeah. Can you put it on the PowerPoint mode, Parag, please?
I'm doing it, sir. Just a second.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. And I have been working closely with Parag and Sense International India on a few matters for the last couple of years. However, COVID has placed a lot of restrictions on everyone, as we know, and as we are all facing it. I have compiled 2 short slides and have tried my best to inform on how things should be kept contained, particularly because I think it is our responsibility collectively to end this pandemic. So first of all, everyone should be taking vaccine. I think hesitancy of vaccine should be dealt with in rural and urban areas. There's a lot of information, rather misinformation on media platforms that we hear. So I think it is our collective responsibility to actually overcome that. And we are seeing in many nations, and I think eventually we will see it in India too, that vaccine will overcome this pandemic. Dr. Rai talked about use of masks, staying at home, very important. However, I think with the difficulties this deaf blindness causes, it is extremely challenging to have children and adults sort of contained in the home environment. But when we are at home, it's very important to open the windows, and room air needs to be circulating, because that prevents the virus from getting hold of us humans. Important to wash hands. So children should be taught the importance of hand washing, and as it applies to other bacteria and viruses, the similar feature applies to COVID organisms, that hand washing for at least 20 seconds with running soap and water. However, if running soap and water is not available, then use of hand sanitizer should be made. We all live in a digital world with a lot of communication devices. So surfaces of spectacles, hearing aids, and other communication devices must stay clean. We should not forget healthy eating, good sleep, and exercise are overall preventative measures. Of course, staying isolated is the main thing in this COVID times, but it's important to not invite extra and excessive family and friends. We are all using ICT very wisely, so that is important. One main important thing I thought was preparing a card about the very fact that I am deaf blind or visual and hearing impaired. I think that will help society to understand, particularly if a deaf blind child or adult catches this infection. And lastly, I think children are attending online schools. We know that is hampering their overall mental growth, physical growth as well, because they are not getting as much exercise. And adults, parents, they are working from home and working at home. Sarandi very clearly pointed that out. Parag, can you share the next slide, please? So 3 main points for preparedness for the third wave. And this in itself, I think, each point we can have a webinar on its own. So the first main point is encouraging vaccination. Vaccination, I think, is the main link to break virus and infection. So I think as the percentage of people getting vaccinated increases overall, we will gradually see an end to the pandemic. And on this very Helen Keller Foundation Day, I think we should spread this positive message that, you know, when one door closes, the other door opens. So I think that is very important. Education of child health specialists and primary health workers, particularly child health specialists, because now it is a speculative talk that children will be affected in the third wave. Of course, this is all speculation. No one knows. So we are all getting prepared because children are our future. And the third main point was increasing supply of life-saving drugs, oxygen and oxygen concentrators, but that is again for big institutions, government hospitals, primary health centers to organize. So these are the main points I thought I should cover. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anu ma'am. Very helpful indeed. Thanks a lot. Deepak, could we go to Dr. Sudhir?
Sir, he is not able to connect till now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you, sir, and thank you, Anuradha ma'am. And now it is time for the question answer session. So we don't have Dr. Sudhir with us, though Anu ma'am is there with us. And if anyone wanted to ask any specific questions to our panelists, Nandita ma'am is here, Ishan is here, so they are most welcome to ask. I got one questions from YouTube for Ishan during the Ishan's session, that one of our young adult, Saraswati, she's asking that what steps we should take what steps we should take in terms of facilitating online education for persons with deaf blindness, and how we can persuade government for that.
So should we take the questions together and maybe answer, or should we answer like one by one?
As of now, this is the question I got from the YouTube, so you can answer that, Ishan.
All right. Okay. Hello, Saraswati. Thank you so much for your question. How to persuade government, how to make a government work in this direction, we know the answer, right? We must speak more loudly, as it were, if I may use that rhetoric. A little ableist rhetoric, but that is the rhetoric, right? We'll have to constantly write to the government. We'll have to constantly, knock the door of government, asking them to make things accessible. Making the digital world accessible to a deaf blind person. This is something which is particularly difficult. We will have to admit that. There is no euphemism. There is no euphemism. There is no trying to bypass that thing, right? A deaf blind person, a person like, for example, a person who cannot hear and cannot see. How is he or she actually going to, for example, access this particular Zoom meeting? That is difficult. But the answer that I have is, here comes the role of the support person. The support person will have to work as an intermediary. The support person will have to work as a go-between, right? Now, that is something particularly important. Not all of us have the privilege to actually get a professional support person, or our parents will not do their work. They will not go to their office. They will not do their household chores, and they will be with us 24/7 to be our support person. That also takes a toll on the parents' mental health, on the parents' physical health, etc. So we'll have to think about that as well. So this is a point to deliberate on. But how to persuade government, we know. And what can be the way out as far as online education is concerned, to make it as much accessible as possible. Because deaf blind does not, it's a spectrum. It does not mean completely deaf and completely blind, right? There is a spectrum. So we will have to cater to the particular needs. A person who has some residual vision or has some residual hearing conditions, hearing capacities, we will have to capitalize on that. We'll have to make the best use of that, and we will have to make things accessible accordingly. So that is, there is no blanket answer really. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishan. Thanks a lot. Very well said, Ishan. Very well responded. And there's a question on the chat here, Deepak.
Yes, sir.
It is from Mr. Nayak. He says, how do we identify the wave when we have third wave, when the third wave is likely to come? When pandemic has continued process since last 1.5 years, it has never stopped completely. So how we are going to identify? Anu ma'am, if you can respond to this, please.
Yes. Namaste, Naik sir. Thank you for your question. And it's a very, very important question and a very well asked question. The answer to this is that I think that when numbers gradually start increasing, so if you actually, I'm giving you an example of this second wave. So if you look back at the figures, and this is only the figures that I see reading in UK, on the international COVID website and Times of India, and there are some other websites that I was seeing. When numbers start increasing day after day after day, then definitely we should think that third wave is on the rise. And I'm not talking of numbers as in tens or hundreds. We are talking of thousands here. So tens of hundreds for a population of 1.4 billion, no. We are talking of thousands and thousands. So I think a definitely increasing trend in numbers, I think then we are facing the third wave. And I think until everyone gets infected, and I think this is what I have learned in medical school, when it's pandemic, I think by the end of pandemic, practically 70-80% of us will be infected. So we are thinking of third wave, and maybe there will be a fourth wave. We don't know. Now in UK, there is talk of third wave approaching because the numbers were right down, and within a span of 10 days, the numbers have shot up again. So I think this is exactly what it is. Rising numbers, I think, and that is why I said it is a collective responsibility that if we don't need to go out, we should be staying at home. I very well understand that with children with disabilities, children, even children who are able to see and hear, even they are facing difficulties, then we can imagine how it is with children who have varying degrees of vision and hearing impairment. So it is a big challenge, but I'm very hopeful that I think we have crossed the peak and we are on the downward trend. So we should all pray that it will all come to end soon.
थैंक यू अनु मैम।
सर
जल्दी से मैं हिंदी में बता दूं थोड़े शब्दों में अनु मैम ने क्या कहा, क्योंकि ये एक महत्वपूर्ण क्वेश्चन था कि तीसरी वेव जो तीसरी लहर पेंडेमिक की है कोविड-19 की, वो हम कैसे पहचानेंगे कि वो आ रही है। तो अनु मैम ने बताया कि उन्होंने यूके का एग्जाम्पल दिया कि पिछले 10 दिनों में जो संख्या जो कम हो गई थी, बहुत नीचे चली गई थी, अब वो धीरे धीरे फिर से बढ़ने लगी है, और ये एक इंडिकेशन है कि अब तीसरी वेव आने वाली है। तो हमको तीसरी वेव को पहचानने के लिए यही देखना है कि जो हमारा, जहां से हमको अच्छा डेटा मिलता हो, अच्छी खबर मिलती हो, कोई ऐसे ही व्हाट्सएप की खबर हो या कोई ऐसी ही चालू अखबार की खबर हो, वैसी नहीं, कोई ऑथेंटिक जो न्यूज़पेपर हो या सरकार के जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का जो न्यूज़ चैनल है, अगर उसमें वो बता रहे हैं कि अब संख्या बढ़ रही है, तब हमको ये सोचना है कि अब शायद तीसरी वेव का समय आ गया है, क्योंकि अभी हम लोग इंडिया में भी हमारी जो नंबर्स हैं बहुत नीचे जा चुके हैं। और उन्होंने एक चीज और कही कि ये सबका जो निकाल है वो हमारे सबके वैक्सीनेशन में है। हम लोग जितना ज्यादा वैक्सीनेट अपने आप को कर लेंगे, उतना ज्यादा इस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने में आसानी होगी सरकार के लिए और हम सब के लिए। और हम लोग जब जरूरी ना हो बाहर ना निकलें और अपनी जो प्रिकॉशंस, अपनी जो सावधानियां लेना है वो लेते रहें। ओवर टू यू दीपक।
Yes, sir. Dr. Sudhir Rai back with us. So he requested to start the video. So I request Rashmikant to share the video and he will continue.
I'm sorry for the poor connectivity and disconnect that's happening.
Yes, sir. Video is.
I'm sure all of them have been talking. I'm not able to see the video.
Rashmi, can we have the video?
Roshni is inaudible. While talking of space.
Yes, Doctor, still having the poor connection. So I request now Parag sir to. Hello.
अनफॉर्चुनेटली
Yes,
सर
sir.
का कनेक्शन बिल्कुल ठीक से नहीं काम कर रहा है.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on because everybody else is
Yes, sir.
waiting.
Yes, sir. So I request Parag sir to come forward and share the vote of thanks for all the presenters.
Yeah, thank you, Deepak, and thanks to the audience also for being with us all through the webinar. Uh, a recent RBI report said that the road ahead is fraught with danger, but India's destiny lies not in the second wave, but in life beyond it. So, my friends, I'm sure we are better informed and prepared now to support self and our children. Let's spread this useful information and help others as well. With these thoughts, I would like to extend vote of thanks to all who joined us here today to remember Helen Keller and raise awareness for benefit of persons with deaf blindness. We are thankful to our panelists who gave time on a weekend to be with us and share useful information. We not only got useful inputs on issues related to education, disaster management, and health perspective, but also heard parents and persons with their blindness through their video messages. Thanks to our wonderful interpreters, Gaurav and Monica, who tirelessly interpreted during the entire webinar. Huge appreciation to the audience for remaining with us and encouraging us to carry on our work for persons with deaf blindness. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all my colleagues, starting from Deepak, who not only moderated the sessions today, but has been involved in all aspects of preparation for this webinar from starting. Thanks to Uttam and also to Akhil sir for being here to inspire and guide. Thanks to the entire Sense India team working behind the scene, playing their role to ensure this webinar is a success. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. We have heard it a couple of times today. Now it's time, let's come together and give meaning to these wonderful thoughts of Helen Keller, whom we are remembering here today. So with that, I would like to close this webinar, wishing everybody all the best and wishing that all of you stay safe. Thanks to all and a goodbye from my side.
Thank you, Parag. Just some logistical announcements. I think Deepak and Rashmikant will make it about feedback and e-certificate. People have been asking about it. Please share that, Rashmi. Thank you.
यस सर, फीडबैक फॉर्म हम लोगों ने चैट बॉक्स में शेयर कर दिया है फॉर ऑल द प्रेजेंट participant here in Zoom, and for the YouTube participant we will share the feedback form in the email with the registered participant, so they can access the link and share their feedback, as well as Once they will complete the feedback and share their name, they will get the e-certificate on their email ID. Please check your spam or junk mail boxes for the certificate email. Sometimes it goes there as well. So thank you everyone once again. So we will connect with some another important topic, and we all need your support in spreading awareness for deaf blindness. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And just to share with you कि हम लोग हमारी वेबसाइट जरूर देखिए. हम लोग एक साइक्लोथॉन मैसेंजर्स ऑन साइकिल एक वर्चुअल इवेंट कर रहे हैं. उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करिए. वो भी डेफ ब्लाइंडनेस के अवेयरनेस बढ़ाने के लिए है. हमारी वेबसाइट पे आप देखते रहिए. हमारे सोशल मीडिया पे आपको देखने को मिलेगा कि हम लोग किस तरह से आपका सहकार, आपका सहयोग हमारे लिए जरूरी है. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you, sir, and bye bye everyone.
See you, sir. Please stop the YouTube live.
Thanks, Gaurav and Manisha.